All right, hello everyone, and and welcome back. There we go. I saved it. Welcome
You did
back.
save it.
Yeah, to the podcast this week. I didn't mess up the other part. And it's really great to be here. We have the CCA Circuit Qualifier 2 coming up here this upcoming weekend, and we also have quite a bit to talk about in terms of that, and also looking back on some of the matches that happened in Qualifier 1 and how we think that that will ultimately be impacting this upcoming circuit qualifier. And on top of that, we're also going to be discussing the leaderboard that has since released and going a bit into what that's going to be looking like in the days ahead. So, wow. All right. With that all out of the way, let's go ahead and introduce ourselves. Krona, how are you doing today?
I am living the dream, as we normal WPI students would say. I am fresh off an exam, literally ended 20 minutes before we went live. So, yippee, midterms weekend. But what
Yippee.
about yourself, Oma?
So you want to know what I've done this past week, Krona?
Tell the audience at home.
So this past week, um I like work as sort of a graphic designer at my job. And instead of doing graphic design things, you want to know what I did the past week? I built tables and I built several $1,000s worth of expensive tools and equipment for my company. So I'm doing normal graphic designer things apparently. Um, I won't show my hands, but I got I got a few more cuts than I maybe would have liked to have gotten during that whole process. So um, I guess we roll with it and we just move on. But yeah, that was my past week, and hopefully moving forward, I get to maybe not do that as much. Um,
Is it like a Karate Kid situation where, doing some random tasks improves your graphic design capabilities?
honestly, maybe that. I guess that's the hope, if anything. All of that, I don't know. Yeah, it. That's the hope. That's the dream. It's character building. That's what I'm gonna tell myself when I go to sleep tonight. Um, but yeah,
It's like a
yeah, go ahead.
cycle back to what I said. You're living the dream as well.
Yeah, we're living the dream over here, but
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
we're gonna maybe talk about some other people's dreams that they might be living a little bit later when it comes to collegiate Splatoon. But yeah, let's go ahead and increase the counter and get today's episode started. So we have a few CCA announcements this week, not too many since it's been relatively quiet, but we do want to keep you all up to date on what's been going on. So, most importantly, CCA Circuit Qualifier number 2 will be having its signups closed tonight at 11:59 p.m. ET. So,
Less than 4 hours, folks.
yeah, that's less than 4 hours, just like Corona said. And if you want to get in on the action, playing some collegiate Splatoon, if you did, especially if you didn't get the chance to do that during Qualifier One, especially, um, highly recommend joining that and being a part of everything. And yeah, Corona, do you want to comment anything else or take us on to our next announcement?
I did want to ask you a question, Oma. So
Oh yeah,
currently, as we are live recording this at 8:13 p.m. ET, there's 101 teams currently registered for Qualifier 2.
yeah.
When we end this episode, what do you think this number is going to be at?
I think it might be at maybe like 108.
So you think we're getting 7 teams to sign up on the Battlefy within the next hour?
I think that's a reasonable expectation. College students, they like to wait until the last second to varying different degrees.
Was it like 80% of the teams signed up within the last 2 days last time, something like that?
No, it was a
Ugh.
stupid amount. I remember being a little
Yes.
confused by how few people were signing up, like when we initially dropped it and a couple days after that. I think it was something around 20. Don't quote me on that. But then, like last day or two, like you just said, like suddenly it's like, oh, everyone, their mom just wanted to sign up. They're like, oh my gosh, CCA, we almost forgot.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen it every season. Doesn't fully surprise me, but yeah, like you said, college kids always wait till the last second to do things.
Hmm.
I think we're probably going to get. I think we'll be at 105, so I think we'll get four. I'll take the under here.
Okay.
But let's definitely check in at the end of the episode to see where we're at.
Yeah.
But moving on from the circuits, another thing that's happening within the next week here in the CCA is the CCA's State of Collegiate Splatoon 2024 presentation. It's actually going to happen this time, I promise. Krona and OmaZen will be hosting a town hall-like presentation to present some of the findings for the State of Collegiate Splatoon 2024 survey next Wednesday, October 16th at 8 p.m. ET. This will be held within our Discord server on our stage, and we'll be in a similar format to how we did both the town hall and the captain's meeting, being that we will present and have occasional Q&A for those interested in wanting to hear more. This will be roughly a 40-minute presentation with a Q&A section at the end. Audience participation is encouraged, and it will also be recorded and uploaded to our YouTube at a later date and time. So if you're curious on how any of the 80 plus responses we got from this survey project over the summer looked like and kind of the general takeaways the CCA has about it, tune into this meeting and kind of listen in. It's going to be a great time. There's a lot of cool stuff to talk about, so we hope you join us there. But yeah, that's all of the announcements we have for you this week. Um, Pretty light load compared to some of the other heavier CCA announcement weeks we've had, Oma.
Yeah. But as we move forward, expect some other announcements and updates too. Like I'm sure we'll have more to talk about with stuff like fantasy as that continues to develop, and also, just other projects that will be popping up and maybe surprising some of you as they uh, get continue to be worked on. But yeah, that's
There's
that,
always a
that
lot
yeah,
cooking in the CCA backrooms.
yeah, there is quite a bit cooking. Some people maybe deserve the kitchen, some people maybe need a bit more help with the kitchen, but it's okay because we love everyone and they're awesome.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, I wanted to kind of go ahead and take us into our next segment, which is going to be the leaderboard discussion. So I just wanted to give a brief recap before we really dive deep into how the leaderboard looked like and talk about qualifier one for a second, since it has been a week or so since qualifier one happened, and we also have qualifier two right ahead of us. So, with all in mind, competing teams were split up into four separate divisions in qualifier one, with two groups of players in each Swiss bracket. And many familiar faces and powerhouse teams from Season 5 of the CCA League and Entrance Exam 4 were present, such as PSU Blue, Red Embers, UCF Knights, and many, many more in attendance. And as this was the first qualifier, if you ask me, it also presented a really high potential for surprise upsets. And we did see a nice handful of those surprise upsets. And it's also been a while since some of these teams have played in collegiate tournaments or even just Splatoon tournaments in general. One team that comes to mind is Old Bay Brigade, who hasn't played in the CCA since CCA Season 4 previously, if I recall correctly. So,
Yep,
um,
that's true.
yeah, so like you do have some old faces popping up, and you have some of the more constant ones in there as well. But um, yeah, with all that in mind, we're going to go ahead and get our leaderboard showed here in just a second. So
Yeah,
let
to,
me
to add
go ahead
on a
and get
little
that
bit to
popped
what
up.
you said about
Yeah.
qualifier one to Oma, it speaks volumes about kind of what the entire collegiate scene is going to look like this academic year too. Like, as he stated, we are already more or less at the same amount of teams we had at the end of season five competing, and that doesn't even include the both the newer teams that haven't even signed up. A lot of schools don't even have all their teams competing yet, like SCAD, RIT, University of Florida, are some that come to mind too. But there's just generally a lot more people engaging with things immediately already. So, just from this qualifier one, this academic year is going to be a joy to watch with how much exciting and impactful storylines are going to occur. So, as these, there's a lot to glean both from a results wise for what the circuit events are going to look like, but also for the entirety of the collegiate Splatoon scene as a whole from just this one event.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And Qualifier 1 presented opportunity for a lot of schools with the teams that were able to show up, if they did have multiple teams, like really kind of get their feet wet. And in some cases, I'm sure when you have like a JV or varsity, they can also help, lend some tips on like, oh yeah, this is how it played out. Here's what you can maybe expect moving forward, at least generally speaking. So, yeah,
Hmm. Oh,
without further
sorry. One more
ado,
thing. I
yeah.
just I
Oh
just
no,
remembered.
go for it.
Another thing I wanted to mention, because this usually happens with the entrance exam, but we're seeing a lot more this qualifier too, is that because a lot more collegiate teams are playing more consistently, you're seeing a lot more collegiate teams in non-collegiate events too. From the ink up, SOS has just been infiltrated with a ton of collegiate
Oh
teams,
yeah.
all competing and getting their practice in, both within the collegiate scene and the larger scene at all. If you've kind of been around for this the podcast a lot and have been tracking things throughout the years, again, you'd be familiar with this idea of the slow seepage of collegiate teams into the larger scene. A lot of this we saw with Ludi last season. You had 50 collegiate associated teams playing with it, but now that the collegiate cycle, the collegiate platoon cycle is kind of being reunited with the start of the semester, you're starting to see a lot more teams participate in a lot more things and becoming a lot more common. So that's great to see as well.
Yeah, completely agreed there too. Um, yeah, like I know that I've seen quite a few collegiate teams, like in terms of just tournaments I play, and whether I'm on a pickup or I'm with like my normal team. Um, like it's happened way more often than you would think. Like, oh, I run into like a team from RAT, I run into a VCU team. Like yesterday, I basically ran into the Big Fat Sea Cows, in SOS, for instance. They were running a different name, but in effect, it was just the Big Fat Sea Cows squad. So it's funny to see those familiar faces, those friendly faces pop up in tournaments, and seeing that tie into like how they ultimately play through CCA based on those other experiences is really interesting to see. And um, it also plays into the grander storylines. We're not just seeing these storylines play out in the CCA, we're also seeing them play out in the wider Splatoon community. Um, and yeah, it's a really awesome thing to see. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, continue for the leaderboard. Sorry to
Yeah, all
steal,
right.
steal the
So,
mic for a second there.
yeah, all good. No, that was a good footnote to talk about for a little bit. But yeah, let's go ahead and transition over to our leaderboard discussion here. So, yeah, I wanted to go ahead and get things kicked off with Division 4. And their Division 4, we talked about this a little bit last week with Crab and Go, for instance, with the NCCS Llamas a little bit as well. But there were quite a few interesting things that went down that ultimately led to what you're seeing here with the Division 4 leaderboard listing. So in Swiss, Drexel was able to play in three split sets, and where they actually were able to win two reverse sweeps to finish 3-1 in both cases. And as you can see, Drexel ultimately was able to get in a three-way tiebreaker for what's considered to be seed number 7 on our leaderboard here, um, technically being towards the top of that just through the way it's listed out. But you also had Coyotes Blue go 11-1 in Swiss, where they ultimately landed third overall. And then Ferris State was able to put in quite a bit of work, starting at an 8-1 overall win rate through 3 rounds, where they finally were able to have a perfect meeting with Crab and Go on stream. So, um, as you can see here, we have Ferris State tied for fifth with MTSU Blue. And then, of course, we have to shout out Crab and Go themselves with the best performance of Swiss going 12-0, and they ultimately also won Division 4 outright. So, um, shout outs to them. And we also Crab and Go is kind of unique in that they have a like Krona. I don't know if you're able to speak to this a bit more, but they do have a more like notable experienced player leading a relatively newbie team.
Which player is that? Do you know the name?
LPS, I believe.
Mm, yes, that's they've been around forever here. They played with UH Premier back in season two. And I believe they've been on a bunch of the Houston teams as well. So yes, very experienced player, knows their collegiate stuff. Does not surprise me with the results. And Crab and Go, not sorry to say, but I don't think we'll be seeing Div 4 again here. Let's get you some better competition.
Yeah, we talked about it last week when I was here with DRF and also Dark, but uh, we theorized that Crab and Go honestly might be like this is a stretch, but just
Uh
for the sake
oh.
of theorization, right?
Uh huh.
Crab and
Uh huh.
Go might be the team that has an opportunity to somehow jump all the way from Division 4 to Division 1. They wouldn't make Division 1 playoffs, most likely speaking, if they did that. Um, but if they somehow are able to jump up to Division 2, it's not impossible, necessarily speaking. Um,
I
so
mean, theoretically, yes, but let's not put the horse before the carriage.
yeah,
Or the carry, however that phrase it goes. I definitely personally want to see them take on more of those middle division teams to see kind of where they truly lie before you go that far. But this performance in Q1 was definitely a great foundation for them, and it's gonna be great to watch them kind of go from there.
yeah, for sure. Going ahead and just wrapping up some of the other highlights from Division 4 that we wanted to talk about, particularly from Top Cut. I'll actually go ahead and swap over to our Top Cut Battlefy here as well, but um, let's see. The top from the Swiss from Top Cut in Division 4 were Crab and Go, NCCS Llamas, Coyotes Blue, and Stingray Incorporated, which reflects on that leaderboard. Coyotes Blow, or sorry, no, Crab and Go with one of the best team names and also the best tournament showing this weekend with that perfect 12-0 in Swiss and also 9-0 in Top Cut. They never dropped a single game here. Um, Unfortunately, none of that was streamed. Hopefully, this upcoming weekend, uh, we maybe can get them on the stream here or there in terms of the Top Cut run. Um, but yeah, and then also NCCS Llamas had a very strong showing in their third place finish, only
Let's
losing to
go.
Crab and Go once, and they ultimately won their third place match against Coyotes Blue, going 3-0. So shout outs to them there.
Honestly, congrats to both of those teams that third place match. Those teams have been here grinding in the CCA for a while, so to see them both get this far in the first bracket of the first qualifier is very exciting, and I'm very excited to both see how those programs develop from here. So even though you got swept there, Coyotes, like that's a great thing to have on your resume, and you're gonna go far.
Agreed, agreed. And then wrapping up our discussion here, Stingray Incorporated had an early scare from Ohio State, but stayed strong for a
The Ohio
second place.
State.
Yeah, the Ohio State. My apologies. Yeah, we have the Ohio State right there. But that's the only match they lost outside of the finals against Crab and Go, so they were able to sweep pretty
Yeah,
hard to their credit.
to get some to sweep both Fair State and Coyotes Blue is pretty damn good too. And correct me if I'm wrong, but that's a North Carolina Greensburg team, right? Stingray.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, it's interesting to see both two very established teams from two very established universities there in that final place match. That being University of Houston and North Carolina Greensburg, because a lot of again, if you're no stranger to the podcast, you do know that I kind of this theory or hypothesis that the stronger universities program is, the better even the lower bezel team could be theoretically, and that kind of seems to be true here with both some consistent high quality university Splatoon programs pumping out some pretty good low level collegiate teams. So
Yeah, completely agreed there. And then,
interesting to see.
yeah, Krona, do you mind taking us through some of Division 3 with that in mind?
Of course, I was always supposed to take the odd divisions, right, Oma?
Yeah, definitely.
Um, yes. Starting with Division 3, let's talk about the Swiss rounds. You had Gummies finishing with an 11-1, one in games, and then RIT finishing slightly behind. RIT White Prawns, sorry, need to be specific, finishing with a 10-2 to dominate the Swiss groups. Um, RIT White Prawns are the winner of the Swiss stage in our opinions because they got the signature wins over second, third, fifth, and the sixth placing teams. So RET definitely had a bit more struggle in the Swiss group, a harder Swiss schedule, and were able to pull through. The reigning Division 5 champions from Season 5, the Table Troop falls just short of the top cut with a 2-2 record, going to the second tiebreaker game of win percentage. UMass Dartmouth Corsairs sneaks into the eighth spot in Group B, grabbing a spot in that top cut um, bracket. Anything you want to add from some of these Swiss performances, OmaZen?
Um, yeah, I love doing this, but I just want to shout out to Goomies for going crazy, a little stupid crazy here. This
We're about
past
to
weekend.
mention them again in Top Cut.
Yeah, yeah, we're about to mention them again, Top Cut, but you can't stop me from shouting out my goats. Definitely not
SMH,
biased.
SMH.
Yeah,
It's fine.
yeah.
Regarding Top Cut, let's talk about Long State Black. With almost an entirely new team of players, um, shows their new identity intact despite their new roster winning a reverse sweep over Goomies in grand finals. Okay, hang on. Long State Black has an almost entirely new roster. For those of you who are a little bit who were in the know, Black has consistently done well previously, and they had a great new showing with this new team, having a reverse sweep over Goomies in that grand finals match. Both Goomies and Long Beach were taken to a game three in their first round, which makes it really competitive. In fact, for this entire top cut, to have both your second and first place teams being in trouble early in the bracket stage is always great to see, and speaks to the quality of these teams within that top cut. So Gumi's definitely bit of a what's the word I'm looking for? Definitely might feel a little bit disappointed with the run, mainly because they got so far only to be reverse swept in the grand finals match. However, they really should hold their head up high, having an incredibly good performance after losing one of their better players to Big Fat Sea Cows this season as well. So honestly, a great performance from them and all these teams here. And again, like I said for Div 4, it really speaks to the quality of the teams that are appearing, and it's a great foundation for everyone to continue on. Whew.
Yeah,
Anything you want to add?
that was a mouthful, but um, I guess when it really comes down to what we saw, especially in the top cut of Division 3, like it might have been I was the one doing the production for it, but it honestly might have been my favorite set of matches just because of how many like seemingly upsets there kind of were in certain cases. You did have some teams where like, okay, historically these are teams that maybe get placed in CCA League's Division 3, where we have historically mostly had six divisions. So maybe you expect them to perform a bit better against certain teams that historically maybe had that Division 4 placement back there. But when it really comes down to it, like we saw some teams like kind of shine through some of the changes that's maybe happened through the off season, like with the Goomies, but we've also seen some teams be able to like really power through and um, kind of just, pleasantly shock us. Like Wave Riders popping off there for a while throughout a lot of um, the Swiss matches and moving into Top Cut, and then getting kind of a surprise loss in the third place match is something that kind of stuck out to me as a bit surprising. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, also that finals match, like it came down to the wire. It really did. Um,
Hey, I mean that's great for the health of Div 3's competitiveness.
mhm.
Um, Again, you're having these grand final teams like lose games in round one of the bracket, which is it's great because that means that while they might get promoted, there's still quality teams within Division 3 to continue on and to challenge each other. I do think I also want to mention a little bit about the bracket is that the seating for bracket is a little bit more not random per se, but is a little bit more not always as quality as it was for League because it's based on Swiss performance rather than like pure game wins or like pure like match wins per se, you do get these odd cases where you have like top four Division 4 teams facing each other in literally the first round of bracket, like Goomies and UMass Dartmouth. So, luck and strength of schedule is definitely something that kind of comes into play here a little bit, both with kind of how your tiebreakers are decided in the Swiss groups, both just kind of the schedule you have with the teams you face in bracket. But of course, the best way to counteract that is just win as much as you can. And a lot of these teams, just did exactly that, a lot of these games being clear sweeps over some of these other teams. So again, it's just interesting something to note because again, I think a lot of the collegiate is seen as used to brackets being a lot more um, select and like there being a more um, larger gap between the skills between a seed 1 and a seed 8 in a bracket. But it's just kind of something to keep in mind.
Yeah, a lot of really good points to make there. It's sort of it there's a lot of small pieces to the change in formatting for our fall events that kind of are a bit more obvious in some cases, and in other cases maybe you don't realize until the moment where it's like, oh, this is a
Mm-hmm.
bit more in line with maybe a tournament I played in the past or
Yeah,
other things.
it's
But
nothing.
it's nothing
It's
wrong
nothing
though.
bad. Yeah,
Yeah.
you just need to be aware of it and like
Hmm.
recognize what it means for the state of stuff. I mean, I talked about this last time I was on for entrance exam, but like with that, like again, you can't really take the pure placement results because all that boils down to strength of schedule, which is kind of
Yeah.
it's very much you're rolling the dice for that. But look, I'll get off my soapbox now, but it's definitely something that you can see effect in here, and it's gonna be very interesting to see the later stories that are defined by this stuff.
Agreed.
Swiss is a format where every single game matters, whether it be for even your team continuing on, or just for seeding for the other teams um, within
Yeah.
the bracket stage.
Yeah,
So,
and a lot of this still ultimately will help play into how points are done too, because you may have won the match, but did you win the war? I don't know.
yeah, I mean, we'll get there when we get there, but look at Div 1's top two teams. The team that won the qualifier is in second in the leaderboard. But hey, we'll get there when we get up to
Yeah.
Div 1. But I think there's another stop we have to make, right, Oma?
Yeah, which would be Division 2 right here in the green for you all on stream. Um, I'll go ahead and take us through a little bit of Division 2 to get us started off. But let's take a look. So as you can see, in top five here are Surging Sea, Egg Spaghetti, UTK Feeders, Taos Tigerfish, and MTSU Skyfall, with quite a few other notable names here as well, and a few that weren't able to clutch the kind of safe spots within our top seeding. But let's talk about Swiss for a second. So UTK and Towson were clearly a step above the rest of their Group B sets as they started 9-0 and 8-1 respectively before finally meeting in round 4. And the WPI Grisco Workers Union Nouveau missed top cut by less than 0.1% opponent win rate.
No comment.
No comment. Okay, great. Let's move on. Mississippi State Sea Dogs started slow, but finished very strong, going 10-2 in Swiss stage. Um, and yeah, that was our that was our Swiss highlights there. Um, I think Division 2, like if we were to label a division this past weekend as the silly, goofy, with all peace and love division, I would label it that one. Um, just because there were a few shenanigans that were afoot, and
What do you mean
um,
by shenanigans?
there were a few shenanigans. Maybe it's best we don't go into too many specifics, but uh, just maybe some things could have ran a little smoother. But that's nor here nor there.
So define the entire division by that vague statement, Oma. Whatever.
Yeah.
I'll get on my soapbox here later. Let's just go through Top Cut first, at
Okay.
least.
So another division with a clear-cut top four, which I think is a generally reasonable take to make. Obviously, there were a few upsets that did occur in the Swiss stage, like anyways, but Egg Spaghetti picked up where they left off with a huge victory in Division 2, beating the likes of RIT Orange Kois, HLG Blue, and Towson Tigerfish, and also Surging Sea. Um, so let's take a look again at that here on our map. So even though Egg Spaghetti got first, they aren't the number one seed necessarily on our leaderboard. That's a little interesting. And UTK Feeders, who got third, is represented third, but that plays into a lot of how our point system works as well, which is
As
important to
team
keep in mind.
wins.
Yeah.
Because a pretty big thing is here that you didn't mention yet, and I'm not even sure it's on
Hmm.
the notes, but I do want to make sure it's written.
Yes.
Egg Spaghetti lost the grand finals match before it even happened. That's right. Surging Sea and Egg Spaghetti played in Swiss, round four. Egg Spaghetti lost 3-0. Which is crazy because then they go over to they completely sweep Surging Sea in grands, which is crazy. But that's probably where you're seeing a bit of the discrepancy between placement and actual game points. And again, like you said, it's just kind of due to the nature of how the points are distributed. The system both rewards these peak performances of bracket placements and doing well in that second stage, but also to the consistency of taking games off your opponents within the Swiss groups, making it so that both teams can kind of still get points for the leaderboard.
Yeah. And again, that plays into just having a point system. It's not necessarily going to be, oh, you were technically the winner of all winners. You don't necessarily you might have like almost lost every single set. You might have had like a bunch of 3-2s. You might have
Art
like
Haley.
through yeah, you might have through a whole like section of the tournament itself. So it's a bit tough at times, but ultimately both teams still having a really great performance. That's nothing to scoff at. Like being number two in your division, that's a crazy achievement in of itself,
Seriously, top eight in any of these divisions is crazy and a really good start for all any of these teams.
especially
Um,
starting out
uh,
early. Yeah.
yeah, again, it's qualifier one of five. You still have four more chances to get as many points as you can. Getting yourself just on the leaderboard and in such a high position already is fantastic. Um, but I digress. Sorry, I totally interrupted
No,
your
no,
spiel.
all good. No, that was a good point to be making. Um, but yeah, moving forward, Surging C, who is the new UNCG team led by CCA veteran JP and Konamic, with notable addition Swisher making a clear case for Division One. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I sorry, I we had the other name there, and I didn't feel like saying it. No offense to you if you're watching. It's a wonderful name, but I'm not reading it. Um, but yeah, Surging
I would
Sea.
get voice clipped.
I would get yeah, that would get clipped. That would get posted online. I don't want to see that personally. Um, but UTK and Towson also had a notable rematch in third place after Towson beat them in Swiss round four by a score of 2-1, while as UTK got revenge and a nice point bonus through the third place match here, going 3-1. So shout outs to them for pulling that off, and I think it's just another situation where some of those discrepancies pop up with the points. Um, so yeah, that's about everything we have to talk about Division Two. Any final notes you want to make, Krona, as a Division Two
I
player?
Well, yeah, that's true. I was actually in this division, so I know. Well, I have a pretty eye on the ground here, and what I'll say is that time and time again, we have always reiterated that Division Two is the one of the most interesting places to look within the collegiate scene because you have all of these quality collegiate teams, maybe who have a really good ace player and some good some solid foundational players, or it's really starting to pick up with their teamwork and stuff. You have them all trying to build off of each other, learn and grow to break into that exclusive Division One cluster here within the CCA. So it's no surprise that Division Two is already a really tight race with some fantastic teams competing. I think that it's going to be a division that is defined by the utmost quality of the teams competing. I think you're going to see a lot of these teams, a lot of these top cuts be very different from each other. Um, Both some teams making it, some getting a little bit right there on the cusp and stuff, but also just the different some different teams pushing further and further and such. Um, so I think Division Two will be one of the most interesting divisions to look at in both its relationship to the lower Division One teams coming into it, and then those higher Division Three teams getting bumped into it as well. So that's my spiel.
Yeah, and that's what you just said there is something I was thinking about pointing out too, where unlike, the CCA league, you're stuck in your division the entire season. So if you were Division 2 in season 4, but you're like, I really wanted to be Division 1, well, you have to wait until season 5 to attempt to prove that you deserve that seeding. Whereas here, it's all fluid. So if you're popping off early, you were underseeded, like you can get bumped up. So there's those opportunities for it as well there.
Mm-hmm. And Division Two is definitely one of the divisions that benefits the most from that, and it will be the most flexible, both because it's one of those middle divisions, meaning that you have people coming down and people coming up into it, but also the fact that there's just so many quality teams within this cluster of skill levels that it's still a little bit hard to define where that skill, like the bottom of Div 2, looks like and such. For those of you who are kind of aware and looking at the different numbers we had in the divisions, Division 2 was completely full at 32 teams for Qualifier 1, compared to the other ones where um, I think it was like Div 1 and Div 4 were at like mid 20s and Div 3 at low 20s, something along the lines. But again, it's just interesting to see just by that nature the relationship Div 2 is going to have with some of these other divisions and then the how teams are going to have to move between them. Um, but I yeah, that might be a conversation for another full episode of the podcast.
So, so Krona, we don't have an interview this week, right? Um,
We do not.
but I wanted to maybe do an on the fly one with you.
Oh boy.
So, how was your Division 2 experience, personally speaking?
Um, boy. I I, I'm trying to separate my opinions versus the facts right now. Um, I was very impressed with all the teams my own team played against. And there's a lot of notable names here that did well that I'm very excited and proud of. Towson, HLG Blue, both teams that suffered a little bit in Division Two last season, kind of found their footing here and performed well. UTK, who was a top dog in Div 3, getting bumped up and then having an excellent run. Fantastic to see. Skyfall being adjusted to their more appropriate level and doing really well with it. It's fantastic to see. And again, a lot of my bit of that earlier spiel about the quality and the competitiveness of the Division 2 kind of comes from my own personal experience of dealing with these teams as well. So,
Yeah, no, fair enough. So with that in mind, and our interview with WPI Grisco Worker Union Novel member Krona completed, let's
Jesus
move
Christ.
along to Division 1.
Oh boy, it's been a week, y'all.
Yeah, it has been a week.
Division One. Let's talk Swiss. So, Old Bay Brigade marks their return to the CCA with a dominant performance at Group A, getting a perfect 4-0, beating hyped newcomer Texas A&M Maroon, as well as several powerhouses of Division One, including University of Central Florida Splatoon Gold, Red Embers, and a 3-0 win nonetheless, and the Splatlanders, who have constantly been pushing and trying to get into that the exclusive top region of Division One. The reigning Division Two champions, the Splatlanders from New Jersey Institute of Technology, also showed up once again, showed that they belong in Division One, going 3-1 in Swiss groups, only losing to the aforementioned Old Bay Brigade. Swiss Group B featured longtime mainstays of Division One teams, most notably PSU Blue entering with a new squad, but the changes didn't stop them going 4-0 in Swiss, including an exciting 2-1 victory over University of Texas Dallas's Ark Haley, notable for future note here, in a dominant sweep over Splat Scad Black. Um, Ark Haley made their debut in Division One. Well, the team itself made their debut. A lot of these players have, some of these players have played in Division One before too. Hoping to follow up a success in UT Dallas that we've seen in the past from the Comet Blasters, but only went 1-3 in Swiss, nearly making the last spot in Top Cut with a round 4 3-0 victory over Springfield, Ohio. So the Swiss group, the Div 1 Swiss has been defined with a lot of, I'd say, expectations. Both of those consistent top performing teams getting back in their loop, and then some of the smaller teams starting to chip away at some of the more heavier and wider recognized Division One teams too. Most notably, that comes to mind is looking at the performances of Red Embers and Splatlanders. Both two teams we've seen kind of progress a lot last semester and kind of see kind of where the summer and their new rosters have taken them. Um, Anything you want to comment about Swiss, Oma?
Yeah, no, I'd love to comment about Swiss a little bit, and I'll actually bring up our battle fight here too. So, looking at Division Group A for if it's gonna load, that would be cool if you loaded. Oh, yeah, we love technical difficulties, yay! All right, anywho, um, when it comes down to it, I think that this Division One that we had in Circuit Qualifier One had it kind of just set the tone for I think what we can expect moving forward. So you had some teams who were Division Two last season that I think really kind of proved themselves fairly well. Like, being Purdue alumni, I want to shout out We Aquatic Little Creatures. They were in like this insane, like, what was it, a five-way tie in Division One, I want to say. I think that's right. Like it's just crazy. And the only reason why GMU Patriots ultimately won out on that tiebreaker is because they had a tiebreaker um,
I
that
think
had
it was
occurred.
they won one more game in Swiss than the other
Yeah.
teams or something like that. I
So
don't really remember myself.
like it just comes to it's going to come down to some like excruciating tiny details, I think, for some teams in terms of if they squeak into playoffs or not. And like it just seeing some of these teams, it's like, okay, you had some Division Two classics, like we Aquatic Little Creatures, Splatscat Black, um, Springfield, Ohio, like performing reasonably well for the most part. Um, and a lot of the classic Division One teams are here as well. But then you also have Splatlanders who, like I was saying this last week when I was with DRF and Dark, but I think that this is going to be the CCA team to just watch in general and see what the heck they're doing because their energy, I would argue they bring is so like it feels chaotic in like a really fun and good way.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and they do a really good job at like, okay, well, you have people like PSU Blue, and PSU Blue has a lot of like they have some fun strategies they bring in to their credit too, and they're a very competent, strong group of players. But there's just something about Splatlanders. It's maybe like their aggression style they use in game, where it's just really fun to watch. Like they're gonna always be at your throat. They're gonna be seeing what stupid shenanigans they can get into mid-match and attempt to maybe throw you off, like set a bunch of booby traps here and there. And I don't know. That's just like how it feels to me watching them. So I'm gonna be
Yeah,
curious
I
to see what
think
they pull off.
I think to get a little bit higher level,
Hmm.
because it's me. I love to talk about this type of
Yeah.
stuff. If you've always looked at the previous Division Ones, it's always been kind of this clear separation between the top half of Div One and the bottom half of Div One. Yeah, the playoff Div One teams that are the big names, VCU, PSU, Red Embers, like Central Florida, teams like that have their reputation precede them throughout the entirety of the CCA. And then you have this other bottom half, which are those teams kind of in between. Those teams that are too good for Division Two, that have already proven themselves at their Div 1 caliber, but are still kind of trying to find the testing grounds of just how to play versus the big boys of the CCA. And I think what this circuit has done, because these divisions are larger and flexible, is that you're going to see a lot of these developing teams kind of push things further because no longer are they restricted to only fighting against these big dogs, but the pool of these teams has increased. Because again, if you think about it, because there's only four divisions, Division One has basically become the old Division One and top half of Div Two as well. So you're seeing a lot more teams at that kind of skill level be introduced to Division One. A lot more teams are kind of trying things out, and because they get more games in with people more at their direct skill level because of the Swiss format, you're going to see a lot of um, these lesser known Division One caliber teams start to tread the waters more and push higher. Case in points, let's switch to the top cut and discuss a little bit of kind of what that brought with it. So Division Top Cut was an extremely exciting 16 team bracket featuring plenty of upsets. Um, I'm actually going to do things in reverse order than it's on the script to emphasize my points. Let's start with PSU Blue. Went through several strong teams, only dropping one game ahead into the finals. That coming at the hands of Drexel Dragon Splatoon, with sweeps coming over University of not Central South Florida Splatoon Gold Splatlanders before eventually falling to Arc Haley. Red Embers did a triumph over Splatlanders in the bronze match, proving themselves to still be a true Division One contender despite the losing last season's captain's Krona beer. Note that I believe that is a rematch of the gold brackets third place match from BO 3. And then to talk a little bit more about this lesser known Division One caliber teams kind of entering the pack, let's talk about Arc Haley, who we saw rebound from their 1-3 Swiss to top their one bounce back from their 1-3 Swiss performance to end up winning this entire thing. They toppled the number one seed Old Bay Brigade, who, as we previously mentioned, went undefeated in Group A. GMU Patriots then took down Scat Blad. Drexel swept over Walk. DSU Maroon then took down Central Florida. Arcaley then continued their surprise one as they went as a merchant victory over GMU Patriots, and then took off, then beat Red Embers, and then before winning over 3-1 victory in the finals over PSU Blue. Very much having this incredible comeback story from the Swiss rounds. So for those of you listening, Arcaley beat Old Bay Brigade, GMU, Red Embers, and then PSU Blue all in that bracket phase. Arcaley, who, well, I know many of us has had University of Texas at Dallas on their radar for a while, I don't think anyone could have predicted this result at the end of the day. So I think a lot of, again, the Division One, the general storyline for it will be stories like this, where you're seeing these caliber teams, these lesser known caliber teams, have their triumphant run. Teams like Drexel, GMU, H Town Rebels are all teams that I think could maybe not to do this exact same thing as Arcaley did, but are going to have their moments to shine in this Division One throughout the circuit events. Um, Wow, I'm sorry for being on my soapbox. Do you have anything to add there?
Um, no, like we had the opportunity to speak with R. Kaylee last week and had a great conversation, and we again like really a surprising performance from them. I think less because of who is actually on Arcaley, because Arcaley is made up of some Comet Blasters members, if I recall correctly, as in
Yes,
like
I
our
believe it's
classic
like two
Division
or
One.
three.
Yeah, so and a lot of them, this is actually going to be their final season with the CCA. So we're going to see a lot of that original old guard actually kind of using this as a last hurrah. And what was
Mm-hmm.
particularly really funny, just wanted to highlight a small fun fact they dumped on us during that interview, is that they apparently only had like one, in terms of their preparation as like a roster together, because this was the first time that they had all played together in a long time. They played 1 hour of Open a couple days before, and they did nothing else. And that
Well,
somehow
I know
turned.
for a fact that isn't true.
You know that's not true?
They played in the Collegiate Scrim Circuit event.
Oh, they fibbed. Oh,
They
that's crazy. Oh,
Not
wow.
calling them liars. I'm just saying I remember them winning a certain Splat Zones edition of a certain Collegiate Scrim
That's
Circuit event.
crazy. Okay. No, that's good to know. Okay. Because, like, we
I
were
could be
just
completely
all,
misremembering, and if I do, I will immediately offer them an apology.
yeah, but oh no, just like being there in the moment and hearing them say that was like awesome people. But that was insane. It's like, what do you mean you just strolled in and you had a, less than ideal, I guess, Swiss, but it worked out in your favor in terms of actually placing, and then you just steamroll everyone.
Okay, the roster was a tiny bit different. A tiny bit different. I'll retract my fraud alert statement there.
Okay. But yeah, I mean, yeah, shout outs to Arcaley for pulling off a solid win and getting themselves in, you know, that C number two position here on our leaderboard. And wow, just look at that point differential there. Like, think about if Arcaley, like, they had a perfect run. Like,
Yeah, I
they would have
mean,
a big number of points there.
in PSU, they didn't have a perfect run in Swiss too. They lost games, right?
When it comes to
Pretty sure they did.
Swiss, I don't think they had a perfect run. Yeah, I think there was only one team off the top of my head that did, and it was Crab and Go out of the entire qualifier.
Hang on, let me look. They were in Group B.
Yeah, they were Group B.
Ending. No, they
Y-
lost. What
Yeah.
was that? 2 games. Looks like they lost two individual games.
Hmm.
So, um, all to say that, like we stated preview, it really is two ways of getting points. It's consistently in Swiss and then your peak placements. And don't count out that consistency in Switch. It's Swiss, not Switch. In Swiss, because again, you're seeing the team that won the entire thing still in second to the team that got second, but had a better Swiss opponent, better Swiss win percentage. So again, it's a different system than the league. You have to play it a bit differently and think about how you approach it. It may suck not getting super far into top quarter where you're getting there at all, but hey, still getting like 8, 9, 10 game wins is incredible. And will do wonders for your point values and such.
Agreed. Um,
So
yeah, but without further ado, I think that kind of wraps up our leaderboard discussion, right?
the leaderboard and getting existential with me with collegiate stuff, yes.
Yes.
I have a habit of doing that from time to time. My apologies.
No, no worries at all. Um, but
Good
yeah,
news is that DRF isn't here to fuel it more. So
yeah, no, have to sometimes separate you two. Um, but yeah, we also wanted to, before time gets too far away from us, we also want to talk about our top. I don't know if top 10 is necessarily the right word because we do have more than 10, but we want to talk about some of the most anticipated teams this week that we're going to be seeing in qualifier number two, based on both their performances in qualifier one and also just um, how they've been doing recently, right? So, with that
mm-hmm.
all in mind, Krona, I know we did have a lot, mostly Division One teams here on our list, but I know you wanted to really highlight some of the other divisions as well. So, do you mind
Oh
going through
yeah.
some of those?
I will give some very quick shout outs to some teams. I'm very excited to look for how they perform. And I'm going to go by our leader position, so they might not be signed up for Q2, but I still want to shout them out nonetheless. Starting from Division 2, HLG Blue, I definitely want to see how they stack up with stuff. Towson, I kind of want to see how RAT Orange Kois does too. RAT has, for those of you who haven't really been paying attention to RAT, last uh, last season they had a bit of a blunder in Division Two, but through kind of the summer work, both what we've seen at Riptide, the Scrim circuits, and E4, it seems like their entire program has gone a bit through a revival with some team shuffling and stuff. And Orange Kois and both White Prawns have come out two very strong teams for respective divisions. So very excited to see more from those teams as they prove themselves. Division three, White Prawns, as I said, Turnpike, which is the New Jersey Institute of Technology's junior varsity team. So that's the second team, the Splatlanders. We've very much hyped up the Splatlanders over the last hour, but again, it's exciting. Like the better quality a collegiate program is entirely, the more better quality their teams might be. So it's interesting to kind of see if New Jersey Institute of Technology can replicate some of their success as Flatlanders on this new B team. Another one would be University of Mass Dartmouth Corsair. Unfortunate running against the second place team in round one of bracket. However, with my guy RDB at the head, this team is definitely going to go far in a lot of these qualifiers. So it's going to be exciting to see kind of what they perform from there. Clark Coy is another one with a great run last season. I think they can definitely perform. They can definitely get a bit more lucky with Swiss stuff and try to make a few top cuts in Division Four. I know I hyped them up earlier, but Llamas, Coyotes, Ferris State. Honestly, I'd be excited to see what Drexel's junior varsity team brings as well. Um, both of those Drexel having been kind of a dark horse a lot of the CCA seasons since some of the earlier stuff, but they have always consistently brought some good players and some great discussions to the CCA. So it's going to be interesting to see what they can bring. Yeah, that's the end of my rapid fire of teams. I'm really excited to look to see how they do in qualifier two. So thank you for indulging me there, Oma.
No worries at all. It's important to highlight some of the other divisions as well as, I mean, each single one is like their own, like in a lot of cases world, really. Especially with the circuit now. So I'm going to be looking forward to seeing what a lot of them pull off as well as we move into
Mm-hmm.
this upcoming weekend too. And as we talked about earlier, like a lot of these games like had close match situations, especially when it comes to our new point system. So when we really look at that, it's like, okay, well, how are things going to shuffle up now as we head into the upcoming weekend? But without further ado, I do want to get us back on track with some honorable mentions from our Division 1, where we're going to be covering most of these teams from. So with the GMU Patriots, we're going to be starting off with them. They barely um, almost became missing from the top 10 list when it particularly comes to the circuit finals cutoff with that previously mentioned tiebreaker that pulled them into the upper cut of teams. But their team, I mean, as they proved, is still formidable and strong. And they were actually able to take Arcaley all the way to a game three in quarterfinals. And even though Arcaley did have a kind of rough ride in some cases up to that grand finals, they did still relatively sweep most of their top cut matches. And the GMU Patriots, despite everything, were able to give them a run for their money. So shout out to them for being able to pull off that. Additionally, we wanted to shout out SplatScad Black. Their black team, which typically kind of takes the place as their varsity team, has been very strong. And in the last qualifier, they proved they can compete against other Division One teams. And I mean, if they can get past round one of Top Cut of this upcoming circuit, they could sneak their way into the next top 10 potentially of our podcast coverage. And then Banana Split, they missed the very first qualifier, but they were still a very strong team to watch out for, especially going to this next weekend. And they've actually added a new member from the EAUCD Splatoon Blue team to their roster, particularly being Lemon and Knoll, who played over the summer on their respective teams, Caution and Mutiny. So shout out to them for that all. Um, Krona, do you have any additional opinions on that?
Um, no, I mean, as you said, I'm excited to see what Patriots and SCAD can bring. Those being some um, consistently performing Division Two teams. I know the Patriots played in Div One last season, but going off their Season Four performance, Banana Split will definitely be interesting to watch. Mainly, like you said, because of that new player from their B team. But Banana Split has always kind of done consistently well in Div One. Definitely has some great players too. So good stuff to look out from there. So.
Nice. All right, and continuing us on here, I'll go ahead and talk about our first top 10 placement, which this is not going to necessarily be in order, but going off and starting off first, UCSD Gold. takes our first spot we wanted to call out. And they're back with a brand new roster, and they are still keeping up and playing better than ever. Um, they actually also added two new members, being Kosumi and Blaster, to their team, and they recently made it into Hammerhead bracket, and SOS actually being last night. And they show that they're still a strong team through that, and they haven't lost their momentum just because of some roster shakeups. And they honestly might even have what it takes to win the second qualifier. UCSD Gold has consistently been a team we've seen. Partaking in the CCA League finals and similar upper end matches. So I think that they could definitely pull something off here, interestingly. Um, at the very least, I would expect to see them in Top Cut, if nothing else. So yeah, that's where we want to start off on.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think you'll see UCSD Golden top cut, if not the top four for a fact. I do know they have some roster changes, both some additions and departures, so we'll see how they stack up against some of the big, heavy Division One hitters. But definitely gonna be good to see the performance in this qualifier. Well, let's talk about jumping off of that. Let's talk about a team that did well in the last one, Arc Haley. The first qualifier Div One team is back to compete in this qualifier. Um, they have very much shown that they're a team to be afraid of with their dominant bracket performance. And if they have momentum in this top cut if they have a similar momentum to the momentum they had last top cut, they can definitely make their way back up to a podium position and really rack in those points. And again, it's gonna be really interesting to see them go against some more of those traditional Division One teams like Banana Split and UCSD Gold. So very, very interesting team to keep your eye on here.
Agreed, agreed. Coming up next, because we've talked about Arcaley quite enough, PSU Blue is going to be the third team we are going to want to call out here with consistent podium placement in our CCA events, and they really have what it takes to take another podium placement. They got first the first seed on the leaderboard placements this past week, so very clearly they still have everything together. They still know what they want to accomplish, and I think that they very likely will continue to be one of the best teams we see as the circuit progresses.
Mm-hmm. Next, we have the team that was formerly known as Ink Black. It's VCU's Big Fat Sea Cows. Despite having not appeared in last qualifier, Big Fat Sea Cows has been on a grind this summer, winning Booyah Bowl 3 back in May, June, one of those months, and then proving themselves with a low ink ban a couple months ago. The circuit could be the time where they take major strides forward and, again, proving their dominance here in the collegiate scene. Again, they missed out last circuit, so they're very much a big unknown factor for some of these teams for some of those teams that performed last circuit as they come here to stir the pot with their consistently high performing team. So definitely going to be good to see both where they stack up against these collegiate teams and what kind of effects they have on the larger Division One scene.
Agreed. Next up, we want to call out Splatlanders once again. They, I mean, just a quick recap, but they went 3-1 in groups. They overall made fourth, and they've proven time and time again that they really are a Division One team now, and their overall number going to be number 5 here on our list. So yeah, shout out to them. They also got fourth on the seed leaderboard, and uh, like kind of playing off of what you were saying earlier, Krona. Like we've seen some traditionally strong teams like Big Fat Sea Cows and also UCSD Gold to kind of take a breather from Qualifier 1, but we do expect them to most likely play in Qualifier 2. And with that in mind, like it could really shake up a lot of these placements. Like I think that Big Fat Sea Cows and UCSD Gold are some of the teams that could absolutely give PSU Blue a run for their money. Splatlanders is kind of like a wild card in some respects with those upper teams, but they could absolutely, in the right circumstances and whatnot, like definitely give many of these teams a run for their money as they already have. So that's what I'll be paying attention to here.
Yeah, and let's talk about another wildcard team that honestly I'm surprised you haven't talked about earlier this episode. It's Long Beach Gold. Number Golds, we really didn't know how to do how were they going to do in this previous qualifier, as they had a lot of their black members rising up to the gold roster. Despite that, they were absolutely cooking this qualifier, going 3-1 in groups, making it to quarterfinals where they barely lost to Red Embers. And these three groups in Swiss were hard fought matches too, with a 3-0 over Walk, a 3-0 over Huskies, and then a 2-1 victory over the Central Florida Knights. So Long Beach, again, their whole program has definitely been improving at a rapid rate as we've seen throughout the last academic year. But Gold specifically, at least this iteration of Gold's roster, has really started to take shape and can definitely be one of those wild card teams like the Splatlanders to widely shake up things here within the qualifier. So I definitely would expect them to be to make Top Cut again, hopefully, and maybe try to see if they can push their luck to go even further.
Agreed, agreed. Another team we want to talk about is the UCF Knights. They had a good run going 3-1 in groups, but unfortunately did lose in round one to TMU Maroon to end their run in the top cut. They've been grinding in other tournaments outside of the CCA over the past few months, and this could help them this coming qualifier and make them have a even bigger run moving forward into the future.
Yeah, no, great stuff from Central Florida. I know a lot of their teams had been restructured for this academic year, but Knights have seemed to be producing some high quality competition for those Division One teams. Great performance in entry exam. Pretty good run here in the circuit qualifier run. So let's just see if they can roll the dice and kind of make a name for themselves in this qualifier. Next up, we have Old Bay Brigade, a very familiar team name that has kind of had some ups and downs here in the CCA, having not competed here in season five. They kind of it's not a new roster for them to say this circuit, but more of a kind of a return to form, I would say. But they came back very much with a bang in Q1, going 4 over in groups. Unfortunately, their momentum got squashed there by Ark Haley in round one, losing 1-2. So definitely expect some great stuff from them. Let's see if they can go, perfect in matches and groups again and just not roll the circuit qualifier champion in round one of bracket again. We'll have to see, and good luck to them for that.
Yeah, for sure. Um, and I think that when it comes to like Old Bay Brigade too, for instance, I think and I don't know. My theory is that maybe qualifier one will be a little bit of a wake up call, or maybe just like a weird brief hindrance. It's like, oh, I guess that happened anyways, and they move on with it and continue to just uh, kind of take that energy they had within season four and keep pushing really hard, and in a lot of cases, shocking us too. But moving along to H Town Rebels, who's going to be our upcoming next pick here. They have a recently added player, being complete, which has really made this team a whole beast of their own. They went 2-2 in groups, with every group round going to a game three. So this isn't a team you should necessarily ignore. And I mean, it very clearly they're in a comfortable spot to continue to keep pushing forward as well within the circuit qualifiers.
Yeah, Houston's always a very entertaining school to watch, mainly because they're constantly switching up their teams for better or worse. But this H-Town roster definitely kind of interests me and excites me to see what they can do here in Division One and kind of the things they can shake up with. Moving on to our final team of our list we want to cover, let's talk about Drexel Dragons Platoon. Drexel has had a very odd relationship here with Division One. I think being in there since season three, if I remember correctly, but always kind of falling on hard's luck. But honestly, they're doing a really good job in this circuit qualifier so far, having gone 3-1 in groups, only to lose to GMU in a game three, but still making top cut all the way to quarterfinals, where they unfortunately fell to PSU Blue. But again, having to to show your program strengths here in qualifier one with a great performance, again losing to a previous Division One champion, that's still amazingly good, and I believe that they're only going to grow up from here. So an amazing run from Drexel, and you're definitely going to keep their eyes on them for Q2 and further to see just how far their team and program can push.
Yeah, and that's going to do it for the teams we wanted to shout out this week. And it just really like highlighting all the different stories that are currently developing, like how people are performing, how we can expect them to maybe continue to either do well or maybe even perform better, or like if they missed out previously, like in the case of UCSD Gold or Banana Split, like hey, they might be able to come in and really shock us. So yeah, that's actually
Yeah,
gonna
and
do it for that.
I just wanted to quickly
Yeah,
state,
go
like,
for it.
we only talked about Division 1 teams too. All
Yeah.
of these little micro things are happening across all the divisions, and if not more, because of the way the dynamic systems can work. Because again, you're going to see those top Division 2 teams probably be bumped up to Div 1. Those top three division teams probably be bumped up to Division 2 or something similar to that. Again, don't take my word as gospel here, but again, you're going to see a lot of these micro adjustments for shaking things up and breaking the status quo within these divisions. So again, whichever division you follow fully, it's going to be very interesting to watch how things develop this qualifier as
Yeah.
compared to the first.
Yeah, like and also previously mentioned, like a lot of these divisions sort of in their own ways with their size are kind of their own worlds. So, um,
Mm-hmm.
like you might stay in Division 2 potentially the whole circuit depending on your performance, but in a lot of cases, it's like you're competing against teams that like may have been rivals for a long time. Like this past circuit qualifier did set up quite a few potential rivalries that we'll continue to look
Mm-hmm.
for throughout the rest of the season, like the Gummies versus CSULB Black match. Like if that doesn't spawn a rivalry where they're maybe at least scrim partners or something, now if they weren't already, like I don't know what to necessarily expect otherwise.
Yeah. But yeah, that's gonna kind of do it for our preview for qualifier 1. Um,
Qualifier 2.
oh Jesus Christ, yes. Can you tell I took an exam right before this?
I can tell.
I'll kind of start. Thank you, Oma. I'll kind of start here with the closing. So we have so tonight in less than 3 hours at this point, we have our circuit qualifier number 2 signups closing at exactly 11:59 p.m. Eastern time. Thus, then the circuit qualifier 2 will start on Sunday, October 13th at 1 p.m. Eastern. This is an afternoon tournament as opposed to the qualifier 1, which was a night tournament. Um, Oma, do you remember what your guess was earlier?
I think it was 108.
Yes, it was. Do you remember what my guess was?
Wasn't it like 103?
It was 105.
5.
Do you want
Okay.
to do you want to know how many teams we have currently signed up as I'm talking right now?
106.
108. Congratulations, Elba. You win the podcast episode 25 guessing game. You get nothing.
I get nothing, yay. I didn't expect to be right. Like I just threw that out there. It's like, okay, this is like a reasonable guess. But
No,
yeah,
you
thank
hit
you
it
all
right
for
on the
signing
nail.
up.
I guess our audience just likes you more.
Maybe. I don't know. I, I,
But
I yeah.
go ahead. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
no, the bigger number, I like the bigger number personally, if you make me choose a number.
Speaking of bigger numbers, that means that circuit qualified number 2 has more is the largest single day collegiate tournament to have ever exist, with 108 teams planning to compete as compared to qualified number 1, which only had 105. A record for the books, everyone. So we'll see what happens with the division numbers and such. But it's gonna be great to watch all these teams compete and to duke it out here on Sunday, October 13th, 1 p.m. Eastern time. Oma, do you want to take this next one?
Yeah, totally. So, just another reminder on the State of Collegiate Splatoon 2024 presentation that'll be airing just about next week on Wednesday, October 16th at 8 p.m., where you can join Krona and Mizuno for a roughly 40-minute long presentation with a Q&A section as well to just talk about what's been going on in the Collegiate Splatoon community over the past year since the previous presentation and what we can kind of expect maybe from that data and whatnot. So, yeah.
Yeah, and then following up with that, talking about better the CCA streams plans. stream plans. Jesus. Circuit Qualifier 2 will, of course, be streamed. It will be streamed on the CCA Twitch account, and it will also be streamed by a Splatoon tourney channel, I believe so. We will not be streaming on YouTube this qualifier. Both those links will be public, of course, and pinged to our spectators within the CCA server. As for the podcast plans, we will return here next week. Next is the date on here. Yes, next Thursday at 8 p.m. It's not. Next Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time to discuss and recap what happens in qualifying number 2 and to hopefully have a great interview with a team to talk about their performance and thoughts this qualifier season. So that's kind of what to expect here for the next week for the CCA. So,
Yeah.
anything else I missed, Oma?
Yeah, I don't think so. It's gonna be really exciting to see what happens, and I'm looking forward to some exciting games this weekend. So that's just about it.
Hell yeah. So, fully wrapping this long conversation to bits, Oma, where can the good people at home find you?
Yeah, you guys can find me on Twitter at OmaZen_monkey. You can also find me on Twitch at just OmaZen, I believe. And then you can also find me here at the CCA.
Mm-hmm. You can find myself at comrade_Corona on Twitter, and then hopefully trying not to get screwed by opponent win percentage this Sunday again. Fingers crossed, we'll see. But that'll be it for us here at the podcast team. Have a great night, everyone, and good luck this Sunday.
See you all later. Bye.